C5 Insight is a Microsoft partner that plans, builds, and supports solutions in Dynamics 365, Teams, SharePoint, and the Power Platform. Contact us to modernize your business today.
My name is Malcolm McCauley. I am a Senior Business Solutions Analyst here at C5. Let's dive into today's topic. So show me the demo, Dynamics 365 Customer Insights Data. And so I'm excited to dive into this because I know in recent days, months, if you will, all the talk has been on AI, and there's a huge dependency on data when it comes to AI for sure. But if you think before that, what were some of the things we were hearing? We're really revolving around this concept of like big data and what is all this information that's being created. And the bottom line that's very, very clear is that data today is one of, if not the biggest commodity for any organization, right? The information about their customers, information about their processes, just data in general is just absolutely critically important. And so one of the things that I love, a quote I heard a long time ago, and I know Neil deGrasse Tyson said this, I'm not sure if he's the originator, but it was this concept of turning data to information, taking that information, turning it into knowledge, and taking that knowledge and translating it into wisdom. And to me, that just is just such a great way to frame what we do with all this information, because it's really easy for us to say, yeah, we've got all this information, we got all this data, but we don't know what to do with it. And if you think of it in the context of those buckets and translating it from data to information to knowledge to wisdom, it means that we're actually making use of that data. So it's not just information for the sake of information, it's actually got a purpose. So we're going to cover essentially how you can do that and how some of these tools, particularly Dynamics Customer Service Insights Data, it's a bit of a mouthful, so I'll struggle with that as we go through. We're going to talk about how this tool can help you do that. Not just that tool, it's all the tools that collect your data and how it all kind of seamlessly works together. So this is what we're going to work through today in terms of agenda. We're going to do an introduction to the concept of customer data platform. We're going to talk a little bit about customer data insights itself, right? So the notion of a platform for this is not new. This has been around for a little while. This is Microsoft's take on it. We're going to spend some time reviewing how Copilot and AI kind of link and relate to this and how it's learning. And that's, I referenced early on, this concept of how AI is kind of dependent on the data. If you think about machine learning, what is it? It's taking lessons, if you will, from all the data. So the more data you give it, the better it's going to do at that. And so this concept of being able to leverage AI is really quite dependent on having data in place to train those models to do what you want them to do. We're going to examine some integration opportunities. We're going to look at a very quick sort of pseudo use case scenario, if you will, of here's this chaos that exists and how can we streamline it, and then we'll wrap up. So that doesn't look like a lot, but we're going to cover a great deal in the next 40 minutes or so. So first, let's get started just with what is a customer data platform. And in many ways, it's exactly what it sounds like. It is the platform that exists to compile all of the data. And I underscore the word all of the data. So what you're going to see today is the customer data, customer insights data platform allows you to leverage data sources across a huge spectrum. There's all kinds of tools you can pull in, not just Microsoft's applications, we're going to talk about those too, but also other tools, and start to bring that information, as we talked about, right? Data, bring that data together into information and connect those wires, if you will, so that you can say, hey, all this data relates to this same customer, and it starts to formulate this persona of your customer and tell you who the customer is. What are they interested in? What do they want to buy? What have they purchased before? What are the demographics about that customer that might be pertinent in terms of marketing communications, right? We want to probably send a very different message to a 20-something versus a 60-something because they probably have different takes on interests and life in general. So it's helping us kind of get a clear picture of who those customers are. What you're seeing on screen here is kind of the end-to-end process that customer insights data supports. So we take the data, we create the insights and measures and segments and predictions, and then it gives us that unified view of who the customer is. And we can take that information and then leverage that knowledge to give us the information we need to communicate and interact effectively with our customers. So this is a huge part of how we do business here at C5, right? So if you've listened to any of our webinars or you've done any engagements with us, you're very familiar of the Powered by Luck, and the Luck acronym standing for listen, understand, connect, and know. And if you break that down, that's really what we're trying to do in terms of collecting data and then understanding it. Once we understand it, we can start to connect the dots about what to do with that information. And then the know is really that ongoing, here's what we know, here's what our results are, here's where we want to go, and then fine tuning that and kind of continually learning from the information as we go. So it's kind of like this cycle. And when you put all those together, it's that you see at the top, it's this notion of being powered by luck. And so the customer data platform is really a central tool to being able to do that effectively. Because as you can imagine, and you probably live this today, you've got data across a wide variety of systems. And that means it's really challenging at times to be able to connect all of those dots. And so the customer data platform helps you do just that. So here's how we're going to navigate through part of today. So you're going to see some some videos. We're going to share a couple of short videos with you. These videos kind of give you an overview of the customer data, the customer, I will get it right before the end of this call, the customer insights data platform. And it's going to show you kind of a little bit of the how-to. It's not instructional, it's more, we'll call it theoretical. But the idea is we're going to show you a handful of demos that give you insight into how this platform does what it does, how it pulls the data together, how it's massaging the information, and what it kind of gives you at the output. So we're going to spend a bit of time doing that. Ali and Contoso are going to come into play a great deal because our examples in almost all of our videos try to revolve around Ali Jameson, who today is going to act, as you can see, as our CRM and SharePoint admin. She's our sales rep, our marketing comm specialist, our HR generalist. Frankly, she's a bit of a unicorn, right? She does it all. And so we're going to lean on Ali and the fictitious company of Contoso, the world's largest imaginary company. And you'll hear in the videos how Ali at Contoso is leveraging this platform to bring data together about the customer and be able to realize that vision. Now in the lower corner, you'll see there's highlighted like bright red and dull red. So the bright red ones represent the videos we're going to watch. You're going to see all but one of them today, and that's just for the interest of time. The one that you can watch later, if you're interested in the content and you want to see this deck, you're welcome to drop your email in the chat. I know you already registered for this, but drop your email in the chat and we'll make sure that we send the compiled deck over to you with the hot links so you can go in and rewatch anything that we do watch today, but also then watch anything that's that we don't have time to touch on in our cadence, but have included for your reference in the future. So let's transition ourselves into what is the Dynamics 365 Customer Insights Data Platform. And so I'm pretty sure I get marks for saying it right that time. That's good. Check. And so really in the fall of 2023, Microsoft pushed a change to what was formerly Dynamics 365 Marketing. Right? That was a standalone solution, and the Dynamics 365 Customer Insights tool. And that change was really to marry those two things together and essentially create sort of two products initially is what they were kind of referring to it. There was Customer Insights Journeys, which represented the marketing, and Customer Insights Data, which represents the data components, not just data from the marketing platform, but also data from all these other sources as well. So they've brought these two things together into this sort of unified product. As you can see, it offers customer data platform with multi-channel engagement, right? So the goal here is how do we create a platform that gives you the tools to connect to all your data sources, bring the data in, start to connect the dots, right? Thinking of the luck acronym, start to connect the dots between that data and getting a good visual overview of who your customers are. So that's kind of the vision at the highest level. As we transition in, I want to start going into some of these videos. And what you'll see here in this short video is an overview of what the Customer Insights Data platform is all about. You'll see the videos are short. Some of them are as short as these. I meant to have all those close, right? As short as 34 seconds. Some of them are a little bit longer, but the intent here is to give you insight into how the platform kind of comes together. So here's our first video.
Navigation is on the left-hand side of the app, and includes the three primary areas that Ali and the Contoso team work with every day. Data brings the customers in and creates a single golden customer record and exports the data to other applications. Insights adds value to the record through segmentation, metric calculation, and predictive models. And customers makes profile pages available to employees. These three areas deliver the customer data platform capabilities of customer insights.
So if this is your first view into customer insights data, that's a pretty cool look, especially that last component, right? This idea of the customer profiles. And it's something that we hear a lot from individuals, customers like saying, hey, we've got all this customer data and we need to bring it together and we'd like to see it in a unified way. And I remember the first time seeing sort of how this tool was taking shape a while back. I was really quite impressed at how streamlined it is and gives you pretty great visibility, as you'll see in the coming videos, into not just that high level information, that drilling in and seeing more detail about them. So obviously a big part of creating those profiles is the data behind them, right? So how do we get that data in? So this video is going to talk a little bit about how do you actually take that data and translate it into the system.
Ali needs to ingest new data into customer insights. Contoso has already loaded data from a number of sources. The new data source Ali will be using is a list of contacts in CSV format, and it's kept in SharePoint. From the data sources area in customer insights, Ali selects to add a new data source. She leaves the option as import data. And she names the data source SharePoint and chooses CSV as the data type. Then she pastes in the path of the file, making a few edits and adding the file name to the end of it, and clicks Next. Next, Customer Insights opens up Power Query. Using Power Query, Ali can set up additional parameters and transformation steps, such as setting the first row as headers, defining column data types, and gives the Power Query a name. And just like that, Ali has added a new data source to ingest into Customer Insights to create a better 360-degree view of customers.
So that video is virtually real time. So there's, we've cut out a little bit of the waiting and things like that, but you can see just how easy. We hear so much about low code, no code, right? This idea of being able to point and click and just drag and drop and move things around and connect data. And so they've really pushed that capability here. Obviously, the more complex data source samples you get, you'll have to be a little more inventive and in depth around some of that. But as you saw there, pretty straightforward to grab some basic data and start to pull it in and have a data set show up. Now, what we didn't show you in that is we skipped over a listing of the data sources for import in the previous video that we just showed you. So you can see here there's tons of capabilities. The list is very large. Virtually any data source imaginable is directly available. And for those few that may not be on the list, you can likely export data into one of the available formats you see here, right? Excel, probably the most popular one, and take that data and have that ingested. So lots of capability with respect to data. So don't feel limited to, a lot of times we'll hear people say, well, yeah, I know that Microsoft has this data platform, but we use more than just Microsoft products. That is absolutely okay. As you can see here, there's other tools that are available and you can connect to essentially anything. The reality, I think, is if you have access to the data, we can get that data in here and start to connect the dots. So let's talk about that piece, right? So this idea of unifying the record, because this is, in my opinion, this is the most critical component. This is where things fall down the most often. We've got disparate data sets. We try to bring them together, and it's just really challenging to try and connect everything, finding a unique customer ID. Very few companies have it in every single system, have this one customer number that exists across everything. And that's understandable. It's realistic because these data systems get set up in silos and they don't always come together. You don't always add those numbers, and they're probably in some cases not even talking to each other. So how could they share a consistent number? So the fabulous part about this application is it gives you the ability to work on your rules and your matching criteria so that you are in control of how you bring that data together. So in this video, a little bit longer, it's about 2 minutes and a bit, I'm going to show you a couple of examples of how to do just that.
From the Unify area, Ali can see the 4 steps for unifying data. These include identifying source fields to include and mapping them to a type, optionally defining rules for removing duplicate records within a table, the conditions or rules that determine how records will be matched between tables in order to create a consolidated record, and the rules for determining which source fields should be included, excluded, or merged into the unified customer profile. When Ali clicks on any of these 4 options, she's taken to the matching step of the unified wizard. From the source fields area, Ali can navigate through each table that has been ingested, matching columns from the ingested tables into the matching customer profile attribute type. From the duplicate records area, Ali can optionally define rules for removing duplicates within each given table. Rules can range from simple to highly complex. This includes multiple conditions and exceptions to conditions. From the matching conditions page, Ali has defined the rules for matching between tables in order to create a consolidated or unified record. These use a similar structure as the previous step. Tables can be moved into prioritized order, and the last matching run can be previewed as a quality assurance check while debugging matching rules. In the final step, Unified Customer Fields, Ali chooses the rules for selecting the best field to map to each attribute in the Unified Customer record. Here, Ali can see where the name field should come from. Ali can change the order of these fields. She can exclude a source from consideration or exclude a field from the customer profile entirely. When Ali is done updating the rules for unifying customer records, she can click the next button, make a final review of the rules, and save and close the wizard. The next time customer profiles are updated, the new rules will be applied.
So again, if this is your first time seeing this, and it's not my first time seeing this, but as I watch these again and again and start playing around with these tools, this gets really exciting really quickly. There is a lot of capability here. You have full control over how to match things together. And I'm going to feel a little bit like one of those infomercial people because I'm going to say, but wait, there's more. And we're going to talk a little bit about data enrichment on this next video, where we're looking at taking Microsoft and third-party data overlays and bringing them together. And this is where, in my opinion, again, this is where the real magic is happening, because this is that multi-data set in these last 2 videos, that one and this one. You're starting to bring together disparate data sets into one profile so that you're really getting a good glimpse into that unified customer record.
Contoso uses enrichments to add more valuable information to their customer profiles. Contoso is currently using 4 enrichments. Ali can see that Contoso is using Microsoft's brand affinity model and that it has been applied to a large number of profiles. She clicks on this to learn more. From here, she can see the number of profiles that have been enriched and what the scores are for each. This enrichment will be visible on each customer profile record and can be used for segmentation and marketing messaging. Ali is going to add a new enrichment, address standardization, which will not only result in better mailing addresses, but also in higher quality matching. A number of enrichments are already available in the Discover tab, and more can be added in the Connections area of settings. Ali chooses Enhanced Addresses. The enrichment process includes choosing a data set, selecting some settings that may vary depending on the enrichment, mapping attributes from the enrichment source to the table field names, a final review and naming. Once all the settings are complete, the enrichment can be run.
It's getting pretty wild, right? So this really starting to not just take the data you have, but then enhancing it and enriching it with out of the box, so to speak, connections that exist to make your data better, right? And that's one of the things. I'm going to pause in just a second after the next video, throw out a little note about, the importance of data quality. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about the activities that come out of this. So what are you doing with this data? And this video gives us some insight into that.
Activities play an important role in artificial intelligence, predictive modeling, and for triggering marketing communications. Contoso currently has 3 activities created for their customer profiles: renewing insurance policies, customer service ticket creation, and survey submission. To create a new activity record, Allie chooses to configure activities. She selects the tables that activities may come from and the types of activity records created. She maps the fields associated with each activity. She can choose if this activity should show up to users when they view the customer profile form. She can even choose or change the icon for each activity to make them easy to identify. As a final step, Allie can choose how these activity records map to their source tables, making it easy for her coworkers at Contoso to click on an activity from a customer profile and explore more details in the underlying record that triggered the activity. When Allie's done, she can save this and create the activity records for the activity table to be updated.
So a quick note just on data quality, right? So everything you've seen, I'm sure you're like, hey, this is pretty slick, right? We're getting some great functionality here, and that's awesome. One of the things that we think is really critical and important, and we speak to this in other sessions, master data management. And if you don't have strong practices and policies in place around keeping data in all of those disparate siloed systems in good, clean health, and having data that's full of strong integrity, if you will, that you're going to run into a lot of challenges as you bring this together. As great as the tool is at helping you weed through some of that, it's really critical that you also be thinking not only about how we're going to bring the customer profile together, but how are we maintaining the data in our respective systems. Everyone knows, we're all busy. Everybody's day to day is hectic, and we're moving fast. And that leads to natural, not because anybody's trying to mess data up, just because we're on the fly a lot. And because of that, we're working quickly and we're human. We make mistakes. Data gets a little out of sorts, and it needs to be looked at on a regular basis. So master data management is a really critical. If you're taking notes about today, what's one of the things that you kind of want to think about in parallel to all of this, if not maybe even before? How do you handle master data management? What are your practices around master data management? And if you don't have them, you should start to think about what you need to do to build them so that you have that. If you're looking for support in that, C5 would be happy to chat with you in that regard.
Struggling to leverage Microsoft Enterprise solutions? At C5 Insight, we understand the intersection between technology, business, and people. Contact us to learn more.
So let's talk a little bit about segments. This is probably our longest video of the day. This is going to talk a little bit about how do we take all this great information and start to segment our lists, if you will, and who we want to communicate with. Again, kind of leading up to this point, all that data coming together to build the groups. You now have the profiles. Now we're going to take that information and use it to translate it into compartmentalizing our lists and grouping things together so that we're sending the right communications to the right people. Sorry, I should have clicked that a second ahead. All right, so here's a bit about segments.
Contoso uses segments to identify groups of customers to target with marketing or for further analysis. Allie can build new segments using a powerful and flexible query builder, such as this segment that she built targeting customers that are 40+ years old and that do not yet have life insurance. Segment queries can be expanded to easily add more criteria. Allie can build targeting models on the fly for segments like this by using the Find Similar Customers function. After Allie created a segment of customers with high lifetime value, she used the Find Similar Customers feature to create this segment. These are also called expansion segments for expanding reach to new customers. To set this up, Allie selected the fields she wished to use to build her model. She excluded customers that were already in the source segment. She could have further limited this to only customers in a different segment. And she identified how many customers she wanted that would be similar to her source list of high-value lifetime customers. And she ran the build process. When the process finished running, the new segment was populated. Allie can view a summary of the segment, as well as the specific records in the segment, sorting them by their similarity score. And she can download this segment if she wants to. Allie can also work with an AI copilot to have segments suggested to her. The artificial intelligence can suggest segments based on recency, frequency, and monetary value of activities such as transactions and interactions, or based on a goal of improving a metric such as average customer value, renewal rates, satisfaction, or cross sales. Allie works through a guided wizard process to set criteria, and customer insights make suggestions after she completes the process. Allie can also further analyze and discover insights about Contoso's segments. She can identify patterns that differentiate two segments or the overlap of segments. In this case, Allie chose to do an overlap analysis of two segments. And she can see insights about the segments. She can see the overlap of these two segments is over 400,000 customers. And these are customers who are over 40 and that do not have life insurance, but that do have auto insurance. The segment functionality in Customer Insights allows Contoso to interactively define, refine, and analyze groups of customers. And downstream, these segments can be used to create targeted campaigns in the customer service center, marketing, and across sales reps.
So it's about this time when I was kind of going through the features, right? Not so much in this format, but reviewing the features, that I kind of slouched back in my chair and did one of these like, what is happening? Like this is wildly powerful. And so the all this great stuff is amazing, but I think the natural extension is, okay, so this is great, but how do we know it's working? Right? And that's where we get into this concept of metrics and KPIs, right? Something we talk a lot about is how do we measure that whatever it is we're doing and whatever it is we're trying to do is actually working. So the metrics and measures, KPIs area is going to give us some insight into that.
Measures allow Contoso to further enrich customer profiles with important metrics. Allie has defined 4 metrics for Contoso's business. These will display on customer profiles and be available for segments and predictive models. Creating or editing metrics brings up the metric calculator. The measure type can be applied to each customer record, or it can be applied to the entire business. Relationship path allows Allie to define the database relationship that will be used to calculate the metric. In this case, Allie is using the link from the policy table directly to the customer insights customer table, because she knows if she maps to the insurance system's customer table, it has not yet been householded, and therefore it would not produce the desired result. Allie can apply filters to the formula to apply it to only a subset of the database. And she can choose the dimensions to add the metric to. Because Allie chose this to be a measure type of customer, the customer dimension is automatically added. The heart of the metric creator is the function builder. A full range of function types are available, and the measure expression can include multiple attributes and calculations. Rules can also be applied to adjust numerical attributes that are part of the measure expression, such as replacing all null values with a 0. Allie can see a preview of the calculation so she can see which dimension the calculation will be applied to. Measures can also be created by starting with a template to simplify the build process. A guided wizard is used to collect data from the user, and when complete, the measure is added to the list of measures and can be further edited.
So again, fantastic features, right? Bringing together all of this. Hopefully you're feeling like we're kind of walking through the path, right? We start with what is the platform? How do we get the data in there? How do we match the data? Now, how are we actioning and working with that data? And one of the things I talked about early on is how one of the pillars, the foundations of effective AI is solid data, right? And so now that we've kind of worked through that process, obviously in a very expedited way, right? This doesn't just happen overnight. This takes time to configure and tweak and adjust. But as you get there, then starting to look at and leverage how can AI lean into the data that we're giving it through the data platform to make effective recommendations, to pick up on trends, to be able to surface things that we maybe wouldn't necessarily see otherwise. This video is going to give you a little bit about how does this platform then take that step into the prediction element of AI and leveraging the data.
Contoso uses predictions to build statistical predictive models to predict churn, lifetime value, next likely purchase, and more. This enables them to better target their sales, marketing, and service communications to create longer-lasting, more profitable customer relationships. Ali has built a churn model using the interactive model wizard process. Following the prompts, Ali has named the model, set the window for predicting churn, and defining what churn means at Contoso. She's told the model where to find purchase history for this specific churn model. Activity data, such as other transactions and interactions, can be highly predictive, and as a result, Ali includes this in her models whenever she can. Lastly, Ali defines how often the model should be rebuilt with fresh data to find new insights. When she's done, the model is run and scores are applied to each customer record. In addition to the guided model building process, Customer Insights supports custom models built using Azure Machine Learning models as well as Azure Synapse models. Models built using other solutions can also be added to the database through the standard data import process. All model scores are added to customer profiles to make them readily available for segmentation or during regular customer interactions.
So to me, the most important, impactful sentence in that entire video is where Jeff is going through the process and building what the churn model is. He gets to a point where he says that this allows us to identify what churn means to Contoso. I've talked earlier about you get full creative control. That is a perfect example of that, right? You have the ability to say, this is what this term means to us. This is how here are the rules behind that term. This is what it means to our organization. And that's incredibly important because no company is going to build something that says, hey, apply this to your business and it's going to work in every industry, in every business across the board. Perhaps some consistency by industry, but even in that, you can have two companies that do the same kind of work and they could define things differently. The ability to control how the platform is going to define things is incredibly powerful. It's an aspect that I think to me is probably one of the most impactful, helpful components, valuable components of the platform. So let's do a quick viewing profile. You saw a very quick snapshot of it just a second ago. I want to just highlight that again here. Very short video, but just pulling that profile up, you saw the churn score up in the top right. This gives you good, short but good insight into what this actual profile is going to look like. Right? We've talked a lot about how to get it built. This is what it looks like.
As Ali has set up data and insight actions, Customer Insights has been building customer profiles. These can be browsed in the customer's area. Profiles appear as cards and can be searched and filtered. Opening a card shows 3 columns of data. Column 1 contains the fields and demographic information from the unified customer table. Column 2 contains the activity timeline. And column 3 contains additional enrichments, models, and metrics.
So again, very short overview, but you can see the ability to streamline and section things off and pull it together gives you the ability to look at those profiles and be able to make sense of what you're looking at, right? In my opinion, it's very clear, it's very clean. I'm a big fan of the way it's structuring the data because it pops things out to show you exactly what's important, and having the ability again to configure that with some creative control is really helpful. One question we get is what do we do with that information? How do we take that profile data out so that we can maybe massage it in other ways? So this next video is going to talk a little bit about how you can do that.
Contoso uses multiple systems to interact with customers across online advertising, social engagement, customer service, sales, and marketing. So integrating unified customer profiles with these systems is critical. There are 2 primary ways to integrate Customer Insights unified profiles with other systems: on-demand exporting of a segment and automated exporting from within the data area. Ali has been asked by Contoso's marketing manager to produce a list for a direct mail marketing campaign of customers with new policies. She navigates to the segments area, selects the Customers with New Policies segment, and clicks the download button. The list downloads to her hard drive. From here, Ali can share it in a secure SharePoint folder to give the marketing manager access to it. The marketing manager has also asked Ali to schedule a regular list update to Facebook Ads Manager so they can keep their Facebook advertising optimally targeted. To do this, Ali navigates to the Exports area. She creates a new export. There are a large variety of export connections to choose from, including a secure FTP connection for proprietary systems that are not yet included in the standard connectors. Ali chooses the Facebook Ads Manager connector. She gives the export a name. She chooses email address as an identifier in Facebook Ads Manager, and she selects the matching field from the unified customer profile. Ali selects which segment or segments she wants to export, and lastly, she clicks Save. This export will run every time the system refreshes. In Facebook Ads Manager, the newly created audience is visible, along with the number of members added from the segment.
All right, so we get into, again, more ability to extend that data, which is really, really functional and handy, because we recognize, and I think Microsoft recognizes, hey, we're not going to be able to produce all the tools for all the things. And so there are great tools on the market. How do you take the data you have here and leverage that information in those applications? So that is the end of the video components. We're going to drive into a couple of other areas. There is one video that's going to be in that dull red that you can watch at a later date. It's going to be part of the deck. So again, drop your details in the. I realize that I think chat is disabled, so you probably have to drop it in a Q&A. Create one called "I'd like the videos," and we'll be sure to tag that. And so let's talk a little bit about Copilot. Right? And I'm sure you've heard of Copilot. If you haven't, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not sure where you've been. It's been everywhere, right, lately. So let's talk a little bit about how Copilots for the Customer Insights data platform work. So the ability to integrate with this notion of natural language, right? If you played it all with Power BI in the past, it's been something that they've worked on a while back, giving you the ability to have all this data and use natural language. Like how many accounts have purchased this product in the last year, and you just frame the question like that, and it puts it in front of you based on the data you have. So that is looking at natural language capabilities, really, really functional. The ability to write queries, much like we're seeing in some of the other applications, right? Hey, write me this email, or help me respond to this content, or write me this letter, or write me this piece of content. So the same concept here, right? Write me the query. Here's what I want to find. Help me figure out how to build it. Assisted insight discovery, so the ability to look at information that exists and be able to highlight key elements. If you're a user of Dynamics sales or customer service, there's the assistant there that's looking at, you've got all these cards, and it's looking at your data and saying, hey, this opportunity, you haven't interacted with it in a while, or it's supposed to close in a week. You should do something there. So you can see there's a video here that speaks to some of these features. I'm not going to go over it in the interest of time, but I do want to jump across here to this concept of Copilot and AI, right? So again, we've got all the data, but how can we use it? So you can use it to auto-analyze some of the information that's coming in here. As you can see, it's assign a quality grade to the data, much like you think of like lead scoring or account health, right? This concept of here's our data quality on the actual I've lost my train of thought. The word I'm looking for, the actual model itself, right? What's the quality? Is it really strong? Is it low? Is it not doing well, and why? To help you refine that model, right? Make it better and stronger so that you're actually grabbing the correct components. Gives you a detailed report on categorization by the different quality pillars, so you can see completeness, consistency, uniqueness, and so on. And then it's going to summarize all of that into that overall score. So really, really powerful stuff, and it's assessing this for you behind the scenes, so to speak, and surfacing it, things that would take you a tremendous amount of time. And frankly, depending on your data set, it could quite literally be virtually impossible to do this manually. I mean, with enough time and resources, perhaps. This is being able to crunch all of that data and give that information back to you. in a way that makes sense, right? Based on the pillars and foundations you're seeing on the side. So you know where data is really strong and where you maybe need to work on the model a little bit. In terms of data detection and looking at the imported data, right? So making sure that that data is good. I talked earlier about MDM and making sure that you're bringing in good data. It can support you and help you in that. And then, of course, providing clarity and suggestions on which predictions are in fact suitable for use and which ones perhaps need work, right? So essentially saying, hey, you might want to be cautious about this because I'm only so confident in what you've provided. And so I'm giving you what I have in terms of a score, but you might want to be mindful of using that, right? Whereas this one over here, really quite high. This one, for example, 98%, very confident in it because, it checks all the marks and I'm confident in we have the right amount of data. The data quality seems up to par. It's got everything we need in it. And I'm confident, as in the machine, is confident in its ability to produce a solid score there. All right, so interesting stuff around Copilot. I have no doubt, given the rapid evolution of the Copilot mechanisms we're seeing, that's going to become even stronger over time as time goes on. So let's talk a little bit about integrating, and we've kind of covered this a little bit already, but I want to start by just talking about the Microsoft apps. Right, so this concept of if we think of data-centric, customer-centric apps, it really begins with the dataverse, right? This nucleus of information about our customers, and from that we build the tools like the sales and customer service and field service and so on. Even some of the Power Pages components that are being built out now that are actually surfacing that information so customers can see their data that you have in Dynamics available for them. Then you layer on top of that things like what we're talking about today. So customer data, customer insights data, customer insights journeys, sort of the former marketing capabilities, customer voice, right? A great way to interact with your customers via surveys and get their insights on items. And what you'll find in all those tools is they look and feel very similar because they're centered around this concept of like the notion of a model-driven app. And so they have this all kind of leaning on Dataverse as its pillar and built around that. Take that a step further and you get these sort of tertiary tools that you have access to, Microsoft Teams for interaction and with colleagues that may or may not have access to data in Dataverse. You've got Power Virtual Agents coming to light, Power BI looking at data from those apps as well as other sources, or even Power Automate, allowing you to extend not just inside the records within the Dataverse, but also start to engage other tools and applications based on connectors that exist, right? So what used to be in Dynamics a long time ago, I'm going to create a workflow that's going to notify somebody and it's kind of limited to emails. Well, now you can leverage Power Automate and say, when this action happens, post a message in a Teams channel so these people see it and can interact in line. So inside of this kind of overall circle, you've got all the Microsoft apps. Of course, let's not forget that one of the slides I showed you very early on, and we talked a little bit about getting external data in and brought into the mix. This supports exporting to a huge array of applications. And so that no matter what the customer-facing systems are that you're using are, customer insights data is likely to work with it. And again, in scenarios where it maybe can't, you can probably export into a supported format and have that data moved into the data platform. So really, really functional there. In many respects, I would argue that you're really not limited, right? So again, the one scenario where you might say, maybe I can't take the data from that specific system, but very, very, very few systems don't allow you to export the data in a way that customer insights data could actually work with. So I would say you really aren't limited in what information you can bring forward. So I want to dive into this very simple example, right? So this all might sound amazing, and it does. I believe that anybody who's watching, today and in the audience, you're probably sitting back. If you haven't seen this tool, like I said before, wow, there's a lot of great capability here, and it is. But keep in mind that while there's a tremendous amount of power in in these applications and what it can do, it does take work, and oftentimes your data looks like this or feels like this. And it looking at all the different systems we have and all the different data points and how they may or may not connect to each other can be pretty overwhelming. We hope that for your sake and for your organization's sake, it feels like this to you, but hopefully not to your customer. But with disparate systems, sometimes even just something as simple as, hey, I have a new email address I'd like you to use, that can become really, really complicated. When you take the right tools and you build the plan and you start to piece it all together, eventually, and again, I stress that eventually, it doesn't happen overnight, but eventually it can start to feel a little bit more put together, right? A little less chaotic and a little more structured. And the goal here, or not the goal, but really the best starting point is if you want to get here, which most people would probably argue that they do, they want it to be as linear as possible, as connected as possible. One of the most effective ways to do that is to start to plan where you want to be and work backwards from there, right? So what is it that we want to achieve? How do we want our data to look? How do we want to be able to interact with our customers? In order to do that, what do we need our data to look like? In order to get it to look like that, what systems do we need to pull from? When we talk about what systems, how do we need to have the data structured to do that, right? We're working our way backwards in the plan because oftentimes, and again, I'm going to go back for a second, when it feels like this, it's utterly and completely overwhelming, right? So imagining a process that feels like this and saying it's going to look like this someday probably would lead many people to say, I don't even know where to begin. I'm not even going to bother to try. We'll just keep doing it the way we've been doing it. With an effective plan, tackling it step by step and stage by stage and reaching out for support where you need it, you can realize a vision like this for sure. It's just, again, a matter of taking time, being patient, and putting the pieces together. One thing I cannot stress enough, you're going to make mistakes, right? There's going to be hurdles. You're going to pull data together and say, I'm confident this should fit together. These two systems should have the consistent enough data, and it's not working properly. And that can be extremely frustrating. Stick with it, kind of take a step back, put it back up on the wall, look at it again, keep trying different ways to match your data. Eventually you will get there, but just understand that as great as all of this looks, and as amazing as it is, because it can be pulled together, it does take time and effort and patience to get there. So that said, I know we're running down on time. I want to point out and highlight a couple of resources. So these tools are exceptional resources that help along the way with respect to not just the customer insights data platform, but also just like you can see the third one on the left, this idea of delivering personalized experiences in times of change, right? So like an ebook about what do you need to think about and how do we need to approach this whole project and this methodology of bringing these things together for our customers. So these resources will hopefully be very, very helpful for you. They were exceptionally helpful for us. And so we wanted to share that wealth with you. I hope that you found today's session insightful. I hope that it's given you some insight, not to use the same word twice, but I did, insight into the capabilities and the power behind the platform. I don't mean to scare everybody when I talk about how it's not easy. It's not, it takes work, but it's absolutely worthwhile. And I think you saw good examples of that today, that the benefit far outweighs the work to get there, but you have to do the work to get the benefit. And so that's just commonplace, right? In most projects, you have to put the work in. And we hope that you're seeing the value here in this tool because it is exceptionally powerful. We hear a lot of customers struggling with this notion of multiple data sets and struggling to pull them together to truly understand the customer. We believe that customer insights data is an absolute game changer in that regard. We hope that you continue to look through it and begin that journey on your end.